Good morning, everyone. My name is Melchi Coronado.
And I am Karen Ray Estimo.
We will discuss
Together, we will explore.
the world of learners with learning disability. What is learning disability? According to Howard, learning disability is manifested in the general coordination deficits, disorder of speech and learning speech sounds, disorders of attention, and refers to some central nervous system signs or irregularities. Learning disability refers to a variety of disorders that affect the acquisition, retention, understanding, organization, or use of verbal and or nonverbal information. These disorders result from impairments in one or more psychological processes related to learning in combination with otherwise average abilities essential for thinking and reasoning. Learning disabilities are specific, not global impairments, and as such are distinct from intellectual disabilities. These ranks in severity and invariably interfere with the acquisition and use of one or more of the following important skills, such as oral language, that includes listening, speaking, and understanding. Reading, it includes decoding and comprehension. Written language, it includes spelling, written expression, and in mathematics, it includes computation and problem solving. Meanwhile, specific learning disability means a disorder in one or more of the basic psychological processes involved in understanding or in using language, spoken or written, that may manifest itself in an imperfect ability to listen, think, speak, read and write, spell, or do mathematical calculations, including conditions are perpetual handicaps, brain injury, minimal brain dysfunction, dyslexia, and developmental aphasia. Under the Individuals with Disability Education Act, or IDEA, the term specific learning disability is one of the 13 categories of disability. It has several types, which are the following. Number 1. Auditory processing disorder. This is a condition that adversely affects how sound that travels unimpeded through the ear is processed or interpreted by the brain. Individuals with APD do not recognize subtle differences between sounds and words, even when the sounds are loud and clear enough to be heard. They can also find it difficult to tell where sounds are coming from, to make sense of the order of the sounds, or to black out competing background noises. Number 2. Dyscalculia is a specific learning disability that affects a person's ability to understand numbers and learn math facts. Individuals with this type of LD may also have poor comprehension of math symbols, may struggle with memorizing and organizing numbers, have difficulty telling time, or have trouble with counting. A learner having difficulty with math problem on chalkboard displaying symptoms of this learning disability. Number 3. Dysgraphia. In this specific learning disability, the learner handwriting ability and fine motor skills is affected. Problems may include illegible handwriting, inconsistent spacing, poor spatial planning on paper, poor spelling, and difficulty composing writing as well as thinking and writing at the same time. A learner having difficulty writing while doing schoolwork. Number 4. Dyslexia. A learner expressing frustration while reading, demonstrating symptoms of this type. It is a specific learning disability that affects reading and related language-based processing skills. The severity can differ in each individual but can affect reading fluency, decoding, reading, comprehension, recall, writing, spelling, and sometimes speech, and kinesis along with other related disorders. Dyslexia is sometimes referred to as a language-based learning disability. Number 5. Language Processing Disorder. Language processing disorder, or LPD, relates only to the processing of language. LPD can affect expressive language and/or receptive language. On the other hand, a specific type of auditory processing disorder, or APD, in which is difficulty attaching meaning to sound groups that form words, sentences, and stories. The APD affects the interpretation of all sounds coming into the brain of the individual.
The sixth type is the nonverbal learning disability, a disorder which is usually characterized by a significant discrepancy between higher verbal skills and weaker motor, visual, spatial, and social skills. Typically, an individual with NLD or NBLD has trouble interpreting nonverbal cues like facial expression or body language, and may have poor coordination. 7 is the visual perception or visual motor deficit disorder. This is a disorder that affects the understanding or information that a person sees or the ability to draw or copy. A characteristic seen in people with learning disabilities such as dysgraphia or nonverbal LD. It cannot result in missing subtle differences in shapes or printed letters, losing place frequently, struggles with cutting, holding pencil too tightly, or poor eye or hand condition. The following are the specific learning disabilities. Number 8 is the ADHD. This is the other disorders related to learning disability, a disorder that includes difficulty staying focused and paying attention, difficulty controlling behavior, and hyperactivity. Although ADHD is not considered a learning disability, research indicates that from 30 to 50% of children with ADHD also have a specific learning disability, and that the two conditions can interact to make learning extremely challenging. Number 9 is the dyspraxia, also known as developmental coordination disorder or DCD. This is a disorder that is characterized by difficulty in muscle control, which causes problems with movement and coordination, language and speech, and can affect learning. Although not a learning disability, dyspraxia often exists along with dyslexia, dyscalculia, or ADHD. Number 10 is the executive function.
Learners with learning disability.
The first program is the Direct Instruction Program. Direct Instruction, or DI, is an explicit teacher-directed model of effective instruction developed by Siegfried or Sieg Engelmann in the 1960s. A typical DI lesson includes explicit and carefully sequenced instruction provided by the teacher or the model, along with frequent opportunities for students to practice their skills with teacher-delivered feedbacks or guided practice, and then on their own or independent practice over time, or the distributive practice on the viewer.
Number 2. Cognitive strategies or instruction are useful tools in assisting students with learning problems. The simplest form is the use of the mind or cognition to solve a problem or complete a task. Cognitive strategies may also be referred to as procedural facilitators, procedural prompts, and scaffolding. Cognitive strategies provide a structure for learning when a task cannot be completed through a series of steps. A cognitive strategy serves to support the learner as he or she develops internal procedures that enable him or her to perform tasks that are complex. The use of cognitive strategies can increase the efficiency with which the learner approaches a learning task. These academic tasks can include, but are not limited to, remembering and applying information from course content, constructing sentences and paragraphs, editing written work, paraphrasing, and classifying information to be learned.
The last is the multisensory approach. If a child is not learning in the way you teach, change your teaching strategy and teach the child in the way he learns. It is also where other approaches in teaching is utilized. One of these is the multisensory approach in teaching. Multisensory techniques are frequently used for children with learning differences. The multisensory teaching techniques and strategies stimulate learning by engaging students on multiple levels. Students with learning difficulties typically have difficulties in one or more areas of reading, spelling, writing, math, listening, comprehension, and expressive language.
Some of the multisensory techniques which could be used to assist the learners with learning disabilities. 1. To stimulate visual reasoning and learning. It includes text and or pictures on paper, posters, models, projection screens, computers, or flashcards. Use of color for highlighting, organizing information, or imagery. Use of graphic organizers, outlining passages, and students created art, images, text, pictures, and video. And the above-mentioned techniques often include visual teaching methods and strategies.
The second technique is the auditory techniques. A. Books on tape, peer-assisted reading, paired reading, and computerized text readers.
3. Tactile teaching methods. Multi-sensory techniques that involve using the sense of touch are called tactile methods. Tactile methods include strategies like A. Sand trays, raised line paper, textured objects, finger paints, and puzzles to improve fine motor skills. B. Modeling materials such as clay and sculpting materials. C. Using small materials called manipulatives to represent number values to teach math skills.
Fourth is the kinesthetic methods. Multisensory methods using body movements are called kinesthetic methods. This involves fine and gross motor movements such as the following. A. Games involving jumping rope, clapping, or other movements paired with activities while counting and singing songs related to concept. B. Any large movement activity for students involving dancing, beanbag tossing, or other activities involving concepts, rhythmic recall, and academic competitions such as quizzes, flashcards, races, and other learning games. Fifth is the social skills training.
Number 5. Study skills training. Study skills are an area of skills which tackle the process of organizing and taking in new information, retaining information, or dealing with assessments. They include mnemonics, which aid the retention of lists of information, effective reading, concentration techniques, and efficient note-taking. Number 5. Social skills training. Social skills training is a type of behavioral therapy used to improve social skills in people with mental disorders or developmental disabilities. This may be used by teachers, therapists, or other professionals to help those with anxiety disorders, mood disorders, personality disorders, and other diagnoses. Social skills training is a therapeutic approach used to improve interpersonal relations. The therapy focuses on verbal and non-verbal behaviors common in social relationships. According to Kulata, social skills training is using positive reinforcement and stressing understanding of feelings, help the child in specific skill areas such as getting along with peers and adults in the various settings and circumstances.
Sixth is the social skills training. Social skills training is a type of behavioral therapy used to improve social skills in people with mental disorders or developmental disabilities. This may be used by teachers, therapists, or other professionals to help those with anxiety disorders, mood disorders, personality disorders, and other diagnoses. Social skills training is a therapeutic approach used to improve interpersonal relations. The therapy focuses on verbal and nonverbal behaviors common in social relationships. According to Kulata 2009, social skills training is using positive reinforcement and stressing understanding of feelings, help the child in specific skills areas such as getting along with peers and adults in the various settings and circumstances.